Alright, so the Loveless, 1984. Marin Cantor. First time I ever heard of her. She's a good actress, man. She didn't do too many different movies. But, Willem Dafoe, he was in, like, Platoon and shit. He's a good actor. And, like, he always just plays this, like, kind of hard ass. Without even trying to be a hard ass. So it's fucking interesting character. For this movie is him and Cantor. It's like magic with this movie, man. Anyway, Dafoe, he's a young biker all in his leathers, and he starts up his Harley and heads down the highway, and is basically like, what did he say? He said something like, I was rigid, way beyond torn up. And, like, that's how it starts. And he's just rolling down the highway. And he's like, basically it was like, yeah, my bike's been out of storage for a month. So there's, like, little hints that this guy's been locked away for real with his buddies. And that's why they're together. But he makes jokes. So you never really know, like, what the fuck is the truth. Because they're always kind of bullshitting. It's fucking strange, man. Like, it's such a serious movie and a fun movie and a joking movie all at the same time. In my eyes, it's very complex yet simple. So, anyway, so Dafoe finds this older woman like on the side of the road with a really nice car, and she's broken down, and she's hot and she seems very sexual too. And he's like, I thought these cars fix themselves and shit, and he's just fucking weird. And he goes to the trunk, saying, throw me your keys, and she gives him the keys. And she starts jacking up the car, and she's like, don't you think I should get out of here first? She's like, don't worry, man, just crank up the tunes. So he changes her tire, and then he's like, well, what do you got for me? And she's like, yeah. And like, she thinks like he wants sex and shit. And he's like, no, money. And she reaches, and she's like, oh, yeah, right. She goes to her purse, and she has loaded with cash, and she gives him like $3, which is still good for that time period. But he like goes like this, and then behind the window he reaches in, grabs her purse, pulls out like everything that she had, and gives her back the money, gives her back her purse, takes all of her fucking money, and reaches back around and then kisses her, and like she's blown away, like she's all steamy. And he's just like laughing that he turned her on and doesn't give a shit, just like leaves. And that was like a hell of a fucking start, man. Just action packed without like, all the special effects and like bullshit that today's movies offer. Like, this is just like good acting, good fucking storytelling, good narrating, good music selection. About to bang it out, and like. So these dudes are in this what's it called, a cafe or whatever the fuck, like a little restaurant diner, and these bikers are waiting for these one dudes, and Dafoe, he's like, what's up? And he's like, well, Curly's primary chain broke, and he's like, well, how much like sleep am I supposed to lose over that or some shit? Like, they're just smart asses all the time, and like. Basically, like, they're stuck in this shitty town. They're bored. So they're from, like, either Detroit or New York or something where they're not from a place where they're bored. So wherever they really are from, like, it wasn't from a small town. So basically, they're fucking sitting there. The guy brings his bike back, so they take off. They go to this garage where they're going to work on this bike. And this chick pulls up, which is Marin Cantor. She pulls up in this nice, very expensive looking red convertible. And she has this like really hot like accent, like it's a Georgia accent. She's very good at like being slutty and like smart assy at the same time. So it was a real good connection with her and Dafoe, because it was just like, he's just kind of like a badass that just doesn't seem to give a shit, and she's just like a slut that doesn't seem to give a shit. And it connected very well as characters. They did excellent jobs acting. So basically, he's like, well, she's like calling him a bum, like, what, you're just basically like a bum on a motorcycle. And he's like, well, what's a bum got to do to drive this car? And she's like, turn the key, and throws his cigarettes in the car because he bummed her smoke. And then, like, she's like, they get in the car, take off, go for a ride. He's like, where do you get alcohol? She's like, the closest place is run by the dark, so I ain't going there. Defoe goes in, and she's out in the car. But right before he goes in, she goes, they make me feel dirty. He goes in, they're just like playing a game of cards. They don't pay attention to him. He's like, I'd like 2 cases of beer and a couple pints of Thunderbird. And his dudes don't even look up or blink an eye. They just keep playing. He's like, I want 2 cases of Dixie and 2 pints of Thunderbird. Flashes them like a wad of cash. So the guy just hardly without any emotion sitting there smoking a cigarette, turns around, gives him the shit, and he walks out the door going, I'm not as white as I look. They didn't even pay attention to like his color or nothing. So basically like him, Defoe and Cantor go back to this hotel room, have sex, and she's naked, he's getting dressed. All of a sudden, boom, boom, you hear these fucking shotgun blasts. It's the dad blowing the tires off of his daughter's car. And she breaks the door down, grabs his daughter, and she's like, he ain't done nothing to me that you haven't done 100 times before. Brings her outside, takes her away, and then Defoe's just like, what the fuck? But he's not really like, what the fuck? He's just sitting there like, okay, like kind of gotta get on with the day kind of shit. And then, so later on, him and his biker buddies, they're a bunch of nomads. They go to this bar, and the dad's there, and he's basically, I don't even really need these notes. I took like 3 pages of notes to try to for what I wanted to say. It doesn't even matter. So I'm just rolling with it, and I don't give a fuck, because it's not like I'm trying to sell nobody nothing. I don't give a fuck. I'm just rolling with it, and they're sitting there at this bar, and the dad comes in, who's basically like said something to the thing of like, we all got to get sometime or some shit. And Defoe's just kind of like, what the fuck? And it's almost like he's sort of almost cared, but not really. So it's like strange shit. And then the dad like pulls one of the bikers, this young guy, skinny guy. He was taking a piss, and he pulls him out of the bathroom with his underwear, and like one of the other bikers points a revolver out, about to shoot the old man. He is like, trying to take advantage of this boy, and he's about to shoot her, but then Marlon Cantor comes to the bar with a revolver and smokes her old man and fucking, shoots him a few times. And then like the bikers go crazy, man. This one dude, he had a revolver, and they're earlier in the movie, they're like shooting at a match to try to light the fire, light the match with their fucking firearm. And he starts going berserk in the place, just laughing and like shooting at bottles and shit, and like people. It's like a total madman scene, but it was like kind of bizarre and like comically done or some shit. And then like Mara Cantor goes out of the restaurant while they're all going nuts and just fucking like feeding off the fact that that chick just blew her old man up. And she goes back to the car, just kind of quiet, was looking at the revolver, points at her mouth and pulls the trigger just like her mom did, like her mom ended it like that. And Defoe's just sitting outside, and he just looks over, hears the gunshot, looks over, and then just like looks straight ahead, like so emotionless. It was fucking part of the impact of this movie was how people just lacked like any kind of emotion or seriousness. They were all just out for a good time and like not really giving a shit about stuff. But you know, I found it to be a very entertaining movie, and I guess I'm into stuff like that more so than like I hate like special effects and like uh, big time budget garbage. That's just I mean you can make a good movie with hardly like any of that. Like I just wish I had the people and like the actors to come up with something like tangible to share with the world, man, because like I dig old shit like that and I would love to make a movie someday. But as far as, you know, past couple years, man, I've just been writing shit, and maybe, you know, it'll come together in a book format, or you never know, man. But I mean, I talk to people that they used to do. I guess they're still doing like biker. This one dude's doing a biker movie that I talked to years ago, and he's like, I've been working on that shit for 9 years, and he spent like 10 grand on a fucking on like a short film. I'd love to make a short film, and I would do it. But see, people are like, how can you live off of like $1,000 a month? Man, because you don't have it, you can do it. You know, like if you don't, you know, if you don't got something, you can't spend what you don't got, but you can do it with what you got. But I do need minimal things in life, like a few actors, some places to go for free, and a couple of cameras. Which, you know, I look at these movies and I think, damn, like I would love to just like make a short of something half as badass as like what I've just been watching with this movie. Is just incredible. I mean, William Dafoe is like a mainstream actor, but everybody else in that movie was pretty much like not really somebody I've ever seen in a film. And I watched a lot of like really B-rated stuff, and I saw one film that was made in Southern Virginia, and I was like, dude, I'd love to just be able to do that, like to like half of what they did. And you know, you could tell like they're not big budget people, but they just had a bunch of friends in like tattoo shops. They're like representing their like fucking tow truck companies on their movie on the back of their shirts and shit. And I don't know, but this movie is motivational just because it's got like bikes, motorcycles, Harley Davidsons, man. You got like greasers in leather jackets wearing chains and shit, playing cards and shooting revolvers. Like that's where it's at, man. You know, for me, like things like that. It kind of runs hand in hand with like metal. For me, growing up, is things like this. So definitely check out the Loveless, man. The Loveless, 1984. If you like shit, like anything like I was talking about, just it's tame by today's standards. But if you're like, you know, pushing 50, if you're 50 or 60 or 70 years old, man, like, or you just really like old school shit, like this movie's worth it, man. Anything like The Outsiders, I See Hidden, that was then, this is now. Rumblefish. Even stuff like Taxi Driver, like this has some of those elements, man. The Warriors, this has some of those elements. American Graffiti, it has some of those elements. And it's just really, really fucking bizarre. So check it out. The Loveless, 1984, motherfuckers.